Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll give everyone a few more minutes to get settled and join us for this presentation. And if you haven't already submitted questions, please do so now when we'll try to get it on the docket. Well, everybody, I think we've given everyone enough time to get in. And if you have friends that still are on their way, text them, email them. We're getting started. Welcome, everyone, to Ask the Expert. My name is John L. Imperio-Lagabon. I'm the Engagement Manager at Burdock Group. And before we get into our Q&A, I want to give you a brief background about Burdock Group and a little bit about what we can do for you. As many of you know, we're an ingredient safety and regulatory firm that has been helping food, dietary supplement, and feed ingredient innovators overcome the regulatory obstacles to bring their ingredients to market. Over our 30-year history, we've helped many clients with label reviews, claims guidance, safety assessments, protocol reviews, and study management, as well as risk assessments, NDINs, FAPs, and of course, GRAS. This afternoon's event is a live Q&A where you will get the opportunity to receive answers to your unique questions on animal feed supplement regulatory. Thank you for those who've already submitted questions. If you haven't submitted questions yet, please do so now and we'll do our best to get to it. And if we can't get an answer to you today, we're going to do our best to answer your question outside and after this event. And as always, if you want to speak with one of our experts about a unique situation that's complicated, we're always willing to have a complimentary consultation. All right, introducing our speaker. As many of you know and have seen at many of these events and events all over, the person next to me is someone that's familiar to you. He has a doctorate in toxicology from Medical College of Virginia, within the Virginia Commonwealth University system, and has over 15 years of experience advising clients regarding ingredient safety and regulatory affairs. I'd like to once again welcome Burdock Group's very own Director of Toxicology, Dr. Ray Maltuka.
Thank you very much. Today's discussion, I wanted to just give a brief overview. This is concerning animal supplements, regulatory safety, efficacy issues, manufacturing, and just a brief overview, just in the fact that over the past year, people have been consuming and increased their consumption of dietary supplements for themselves for obvious reasons. And that's been in the news quite a bit over the past few months. The other thing that people may not be so aware of is that people do purchase things for their pets if they believe it is good for themselves as well.
Pets are people too.
Pets are people too, obviously. And mine is definitely an odd one. But that being said, people are looking more and more towards supplements for their animals for different reasons. And so we really need to look at, and we've looked at the regulatory aspects of animal supplements and what that entails, what actually FDA is looking at in terms of supplements utilized and provided to animals. And I'd just like to touch on a little bit of that during today's discussion.
Fantastic. I know I'm personally excited to hear a little more about this space. It's such an interesting and growing environment, and especially the regulatory part of it. I think that's a very important hurdle and aspect that everyone needs to be aware of. With that, let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
This question was one that I think is important because I think it sets the scene for everything. But how are supplements for companion animals regulated, and what are the regulatory steps that are necessary to bring supplements to market? So start at the top.
Start at the top. Start at the beginning. As I alluded to at the beginning of this discussion, dietary supplements for humans are actually regulated by the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. Specifically within that act, Congress did not mention and excluded animals under that act. So when we think about dietary supplements for humans, those regulations do not relate to supplements for animals.
Do you mind if I add to that? So what are the unique dietary supplement, I don't want to say privileges, but what is unique to dietary supplements in the human space that is not existing for animal feed? I think do you see where I'm going with that?
That is one of the key issues, is the fact that CVM, Center for Veterinary Medicine, part of FDA, that regulates animal feed and drugs, and also evaluates supplements that are out there on the market for companion animals and other animals. And they have said very specifically and directly that DSHEA, the act in 1994, does not apply to animal supplements. The regulations for animal supplements specifically falls underneath the supplement ingredients being either a food additive or a grass ingredient that has been concluded to be grass, if they are not previously have claims of stating that they are a drug. So supplements can fall under one of two categories. Either they are food, or if they have claims indicating that they diagnose, treat, prevent, cure, and mitigate disease, then they are drugs. There's only those two categories.
Okay, in the animal feed space.
In the animal space,
okay.
Yes.
So I guess where I'm going with that is with the DSHEA, they allow provisions for something called structure function claims on the human side.
Correct.
That does not apply to animals. Is that
correct? That does not apply to animals. There has been some leniency and some give and take concerning CVM and FDA in general evaluating or looking at claims for structure or function, affecting the structure or function of the body, including for animals. But when it comes down to it, when evaluating these claims, FDA will say technically structure ingredients that change the structure or function of the body other than for nutritive or food properties are considered drugs.
Okay.
So that's where we start getting into the gray area of whether an ingredient that is in a supplement provides nutritive value to an animal. And that's kind of a widening area with the enhanced studies, the enhanced scientific information on what's going on in an animal's body, and is it an ingredient that is providing some sort of nutritive type of an effect.
And if it does not, then it would be considered by definition a drug.
Technically, yes.
So I think that's one important key understanding, especially for companies that are in multiple industries. The dietary supplement type regulations and provisions for claims do not apply to animal feed, but there is this gray area that we're going to explore today.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect. So with that good introduction, thank you, sir. We're going to move to our first question that we received from one of our attendees, and I'll read it as I'm going to read it. For the same claimed functional health benefit, across manufacturers, there appear to be different approaches used for selection of ingredients and determination of levels. What are regulatory requirements and common industry practices related to determining ingredients and levels to use for functional health claims? We're especially interested in situations where there may not be a body of scientific evidence and or when there are challenges with delivery of full efficacious amounts. There's a few things there based,
a few parts
based on our that initial question we answered that you might want to address.
So one of the comments or questions in there is concerning efficacious use and obtaining those levels in animals or determining efficacious use in animals. So a part of that is going to be really doing due diligence to show that the amount of the ingredient you're providing to that animal will have the expected effect in that animal that you're providing. That is providing a truthful, not misleading claim.
So there is an element that
So-
requires efficacy testing to show that this is the minimum level.
Yes, you
Okay.
have to at least have something in your possession saying, yes, I do have the evidence supporting that this ingredient or this formulation, let's put it that way, will do the desired action that I do state on the label or in any labeling material that I may have.
Yeah.
So to show that it's truthful and not misleading.
And I guess the other aspect of this question is, you figure out the levels that you need for that ingredient
Mhm.
for an intended functional health claim. Now, do you want to go into that a little bit?
So for the intended functional health claim,
Yes.
that again, on the human side, you can state qualified health claims in which the claims are qualified, and that is submitted to FDA. FDA reviews your claim saying that the amount of evidence supports the claim. So it's a functional effect of an ingredient on the body, such as oleic acid in oils can provide a health benefit in different situations, and that's on the human side. And there is a qualified claim supporting that role, and FDA has ruled on that. That's a functional claim of sorts. The animal side is different in the fact that there is no functional claim way of getting a publicly provided response that I can think of from FDA, but on an ingredient and having a functional effect on the body. But you can make those statements if it is an ingredient that provides a nutritive process.
I think that's the key.
Yes, it is. It has to be nutritive. If you can show that through scientific literature, and again, keep in mind, you've got to show it through scientific literature for the intended species. CVM has been very clear on this, that dogs are not, as much as I'd like to say, dogs are not little children or little adults. So little people. I anthropomorphize my dog very much, but
who doesn't?
Definitely not. Same thing with cats. And so you really have to show that those ingredients actually do those effects in the animal that you're providing the claim for.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I mean, I think we could harp on this. It's really the biggest issue about dietary or supplements in animals is what you can say about it and support it. We could harp on this all day, but I think we should move on. Thank you for that. Now, I guess this is another question, is if building on that is, what does current FDA enforcement look like in the pet supplement space?
From what I've seen in terms of warning letters and statements made by CVM and FDA on the animal supplement space, they really choose which claims, which statements, which products are actually being very egregious in their labeling, in their statements, and how close they are coming to stating whether their products diagnose, treat, mitigate, cure disease. So that is really a key aspect to that. If supplements and supplement labeling stays away from those types of promotional claims or disease claims, there's less of a impetus for FDA to move forward with stating that there's a problem with selling that supplement.
So it's like risk mitigation.
It is very much like risk mitigation. You really have to be careful on what you state, in that staying away from the drug claims, and also staying away from just definite claims of, well, it's been used to promote cognitive function, in my dog. Again, that promoting is pushing a little bit above, helping to, one thing that I typically state, which is I've taken from the human health structure and function claim scenario, and I've tried to apply it a little bit more to the animal supplement arena, is that you want your statements to say they are helping to support or maintain normal health of your animal, not that it's promoting something better. Promoting is making it better. And keep in mind also, FDA on the animal side is saying that promotion claims, it provides better, it promotes, it makes things healthier. Those were originally connected a little bit more with antibiotics added to feeds to promote the health of livestock. Those types of claims on antibiotics, because antibiotics are drugs, at least in my mind, this is the way FDA was looking at it, that those are drug claims, because they're promoting the health above and beyond what is typical average for a healthy animal. So you really want your claims, your statements on your supplements to say they're helping to maintain a healthy joint system. They're helping to maintain a healthy, immune response, as opposed to promoting a response.
Yeah, it's maintenance.
It's maintenance.
It's
maintenance
static.
of normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to increase.
Exactly.
Increase something, which is, I guess, one of the fundamental understanding of drug claims.
Right.
For CVM. Now, I guess this is a pretty natural segue into what I personally want to ask you is, what is considered a nutritive benefit? And building on that, it's like, what can you say? And that sounds, I think what you said,
Yeah.
Maintenance types of claims
It's a maintenance type of claim, so it helps to support or maintain the body, and it has to be a nutritive type of an effect. So in that case, let's say you're adding something as simple as a vitamin C or some sort of antioxidant. So you've got to be able to back up the claim that this is helping support your normal functioning of the joint by the antioxidant actually disrupting oxidative damage within the joint, such that it helps maintain that joint.
And I think this goes part and parcel with I think the most important thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's almost like you should stay away from drug claims and stay as far as you can from that, and try to find that space where you can get nutritive benefit claims.
Nutritive benefit claims, and my suggestion is as well to stay away from as many claims as you can.
Be selective.
Be very selective, because the more claims you put out there, the more variations on a theme, the more synonyms that FDA may say, well, that synonym is very close to a synonym that we feel is a drug claim.
It's like an active thing, like an action, like a verb. Now we're getting semantics. Like I should stop talking about semantics before I get myself in trouble. Now, we talked about enforcement, but let's say worst case scenario happens. You get a warning letter from FDA. At least that's what I would view as a bad scenario. What do you do when you receive one?
Well, in my mind, and what I've done in the past, is recommend that the company and the client work very closely with FDA and discuss with them first and foremost. Don't ignore it. Address it head on, and make sure that you're interacting with FDA, saying, what can I do to rectify these statements? What would you like to see? What's, not necessarily what would you like to see, but these are my steps that I'm going to do to rectify this. Will these steps rectify your questions, your responses? And move that way. Never give them an open question, but say, these, based on what you've provided to me, these are the steps I'm going to take to mitigate this and resolve these questions. And that way, engagement with FDA on that type of a situation is the best thing that a person can do.
Absolutely. That's very good. I think we started off with, I guess, the things that I hear the most issue with. Is what can I say about this? I mean, what kind of product is this? Now, I guess another aspect of this nutritive supplement or supplement space is, well, if there's no regulatory body for this. And then what's next? And this next question is, are there any recognized bodies, organizations that companies can work with in the pet supplement space that has good relationships with FDA?
Yes, there is one that does come up in my mind quite a bit, and I've actually interacted with them, is the National Animal Supplement Council, NASC. And I've interacted with the CEO, who started it, Mr. Bill Burdock, and they actually produce, among other things, and work with select companies that join the council, that they have an adverse event reporting system in place, as well as NASC helps companies to write their labels appropriately, evaluate some of the claims, statements if wanted or need be, things like that to help promote the correct statements, as well as adverse event reporting, which FDA CVM sees as being a positive step in noting whether there are some problems with these supplements out there.
Yeah, and I think when we were discussing a little earlier, it's pretty clear that NASC is not a replacement for FDA and FDA regulations, but it doesn't hurt. It certainly can help.
It can help
reduce risk, because they'll make sure to hold you accountable. They'll make sure you understand certain quality standards, as well as making sure you don't stray into that drug claim territory.
Correct.
Is that they do a lot of good work over there, and we're good friends with them. So if there's any organization, I think top of mind for this type of space would be the National Animal Supplement Council. All right, well, now this is an interesting question. How does the EU treat supplements for animals, and how is that different than US regulations? This is like out of left field, but we're shooting our shot. You got anything for me?
Not that much, other than I do know that they do look upon use of supplements as appropriate in animals, but I've not dug into the regulations much concerning that as well. I do believe that those supplements, those ingredients, also have to be evaluated and regulated
as food ingredients.
As ingredients.
Okay.
I'm not going to say they are regulated as food, as ingredients for food, but I do believe that there is a section concerning supplements.
For animals?
For animals.
Oh, so they actually have regulation.
I believe that they do.
Okay.
I would have to check.
Well,
I've not dug into that arena very much at all.
Yeah, we have friends that can probably, if you have questions on that, we'll shoot you over to them. Let us know and we'll connect you. Now that there's another question talking about the regulations. Given that the SHEA excludes pets and animals, should pet supplements not have an SFP, but just have an ingredient list? I'm not sure what SFP means. Do you?
No, I'm trying to remember what that is.
I've seen it off
my head.
I can't.
But it is definitely.
Oh, sorry, supplement facts panel.
Oh, yes. Well, see, and the thing of it is, you have to have a label with guaranteed analysis. It is not going to be a supplement facts panel as you would see it on a human supplement.
It's not a DSHEA.
It's not a DSHEA type of label. It is going to be a, actually it should be a animal feed ingredient label.
The food.
With guaranteed analyses and things of that nature. So that's because you're saying this is a nutritional supplement, and therefore it is part of nutrition for your animal. It falls under the food category. And because there's either food or drugs for animals, you should utilize a labeling format that is consistent with animal feed labeling.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the point that there's no official dietary supplement for animal regulations, so adhere to food.
Correct.
I think that's good. Thank you, producer, for that clarification. Are you aware if FDA is taking any action on companies that sell pet supplements with CBD? Oh, I have a few more, but let's answer that question real quick. You seem very excited. Okay, so let's answer that.
No, it's just that in preparation for this, I did look at warning letters, and I did find a warning letter that was specific they have not taken many, or this warning letter that I found was in 2019. And there really aren't that many warning letters specifically for CBD oil in pet supplements, or CBD in pet supplements. So I think it is more dependent upon the claims that are associated with that product that really FDA is pushing forward. CBD is as everybody knows, it's a hot button topic for both human and animal supplement use, however you want to say it. So I think FDA is analyzing what to do, and they have not made any steps forward in determining that. So what the biggest thing that I see is that if you are going to state that, again, if it is acting as a drug, then they are going to flag you as saying it is a drug, therefore you should be selling this as a drug and have it go under the NADA process for drugs.
Going back to claims, what you say about it really mitigates your risk.
It
increases it.
Or increases it.
Depending on what you say.
It decreases it, definitely, if you stay away from those promotion claims, those treating claims, definitely.
So another question. How's your voice? Would you like some water?
I'm doing
fine. Okay, it sounds a little raspy. You've been talking a lot, giving us great information. I just wanted to make sure we gave you a break because you've been going.
No problem.
Don't say I never looked out for you. Okay, more questions on the CBD
definitely. Stuff. Hopefully my voice will have cleared up.
Yeah, okay. Is it similar to how FDA is only enforcing in the form of warning letters to companies marketing CBD products that have made unsubstantiated claims about the therapeutic potential of their products and thus leaving everyone else not making egregious claims alone? It's a mouthful, but
it's a mouthful, but it's something similar to what I was alluding to in the last question, was the fact that on the FDA website where they list warning letters, and keep in mind these warning letters don't show up instantly. There's kind of a delay, but I've not seen a lot of warning letters for CBD in animal feed, let's put it that way, even if it's supplements or not, that are out there compared to the number of supplements I know that are out there. So proportionally, if there's egregious claims stating drug claims or promotion claims, that is what FDA is going to go after much more so than if you stay away from those claims and just state contains CBD oil. Now that in and of itself is a claim. So I've also seen some other statements made by FDA, and this is both on the human side and on other areas. And this is a part of what FDA flags quite often in terms of pet supplements as well as dietary supplements. You have to characterize your ingredient and you have to show that it's there for the lifetime of the ingredient, shelf life, basically. So FDA has gone back to evaluate how much of your ingredients are actually in the product. And they found very wide ranges of ingredients in a product such that they're flagging this and saying, you know, we don't know what's in your product because it could be 20% of what you said it was in there, or it could be 150% of what you said is in there. So that is one of the things. Same thing as this comes back to, if you say it contains CBD oil, you have to make sure it actually contains the amount of CBD oil that you say that it is in, or hemp oil, or, you know, if you say it's 0.2%, 0.02% CBD, you better be within a pretty clear range of that amount.
Just for the record, and wanted to make sure that we got this clear, CBD is not an approved feed additive.
Correct.
It is not. Into my knowledge, not GRAS, not AFCO defined to date, it is not an approved feed additive. So therefore, that is an issue. Even before thinking about claims for CBD or products with CBD, it's not even an approved feed additive at the moment.
Correct. It is, I don't want to say it's nothing because it is, CBD is actually approved as a drug for humans at a
That's pretty
purified
much the
level.
only
That's the only
approval
approval that I have
anywhere.
seen. Now, there could be, keep in mind that people can conclude something is grass and not notify FDA. And
Yeah.
that notification of FDA on a grass status is a voluntary process. So they could have a company could have something in their back pocket saying, we have concluded that CBD is safe at such and such level for dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That can occur. But in this, arena and space, I've not seen anything indicating that CBD is lawfully able to be added to pet ingredient or pet food.
And I guess, for lack of a better term, it's not been officially recognized by an agency, a food agency.
Correct.
So that's, I guess, a very important point that many people probably need to hear or want to understand. Now, are you aware of any U.S. regulation, or sorry, U.S. legislation that is moving us into the direction of regulating pet and animal supplements? So I guess the future.
The future.
About the future.
Yes.
Is there
and in
anything
preparation for
wind of
this, I've not seen anything, actually.
Mm.
Now, there was a discussion a few months ago concerning DSHEA 2.0, in which there is talk about revamping or reanalyzing DSHEA for humans.
Yep.
Now, I can envision there being a process by which expanding that for animals. If
within DSHEA 2.0.
Within DSHEA 2.0, I could see there being a push to do that. But I've not heard of any bills. I've looked, no legislation on the federal level trying to push things forward for animal supplements.
I know that they're proposing a bill for CBD regulated as a dietary supplement, but thing is, I do believe that falls under DSHEA.
Yes,
under DSHEA. I don't know if there's any provisions there for animals. I just don't know well enough.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
CBD is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah.
And they're trying to treat that
in isolation.
Well,
in a vacuum.
Good question, because the whole issue concerning CBD is opening up the whole question concerning dietary supplements as a whole and how they're being regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And that is bleeding over into animal supplements and how they're regulated. So in the coming months or year or two, who knows with administrations and what's on their plate, moving that forward, that could really open up the ability to have the pet supplement industry push forward the inclusion of animal supplements into the DSHEA process. That could occur because there's so much influx, and especially because CBD is pushing a lot of this forward.
They really are in terms of amending DSHEA or adding to. I don't know exactly how it's working, but they are really pushing the envelope when it comes to DSHEA on the human side.
Correct.
But in my mind, I think that if there's going to be a reform of DSHEA, I think the inclusion of the pet food supplement regulatory aspect would be within that. That would be the push.
Correct.
So if there's anyone watching within the pet food space, know any, just jump on it.
Talk to your legislator.
Talk to them. Okay. Now, on the broader scope, thinking in terms of trends and what you've seen in your experience, what are the highest risk regulatory issues for the industry today? And I think let's just narrow this down to regulatory risks in this industry today.
Well,
let's start there.
Okay, regulatory is the primary one, obviously, is stating the claims is a drug.
I would agree with you. That's the most common one.
That is the biggest evaluation that it would seem that FDA does for these types of supplements is, first off, are they making egregious drug-related claims? Then they'll be going into other aspects of either other claims, labeling, making sure your label is appropriate, for an animal ingredient, for animals. And then it kind of bleeds over into things that are really just focused on supplements and food in general. Do you know what you're putting into this product? Do you have the certificates of analysis? Do you have all of the documentation characterizing these ingredients going into your product? How is it being manufactured? Is it being manufactured under good manufacturing practice? I know that there are certain companies that do promote that in certain organizations, including NASC. They promote animal supplements being produced under good manufacturing practice, just like dietary supplements for humans are under that same type of regulation. Those types of issues on the regulatory side are what are really of a concern for the producer of animal supplements, in my mind.
Okay. Now, I guess adding to this risk question, difficult question to answer, but what are the risks of people selling supplements without getting, supplements that are not grass or supplements that are not approved feed additives? Do you think that's a significant risk? What are your thoughts on the risks of doing that? Because I know a lot of people just sell supplements and they say this is not a food, so this is just a supplement. So what are the risks associated with that?
Well, again, the primary risk is getting keep in mind when you're talking about risk, what is the biggest concern? Risk would be you get a warning letter and FDA asks you to pull all of your product from all sources that are selling and pull down your website if you're selling it via a website. That is a big hit to a company's bottom line, to a company's reputation. Those are big risks.
That is the risk.
That is the risk.
Risk of a warning letter and an eventual stop sale.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you think that is a significant risk for those individuals who are selling supplements that are not approved feed additives?
Again, it is always a risk, and many times the risk is of how FDA would become cognizant of the product that you're selling.
I see where you're going with this.
And that again leads back to the claims you're making on your product.
Yeah.
And the different types of ingredients. Because I do know that FDA and state regulators as well look at supplement labels and ingredient statements. And if you have an ingredient that is way outside of left field and a state regulator has never seen it before, they're going to flag it and say, I don't know where this came from. Let me reach out to FDA and see if they know if they've got any information on it. And it just kind of starts escalating. And then that brings in other questions and other reviews. And that could be, again, a reason for FDA to say, we don't know what this is. You need to show us
in the
why
warning
it's
letter.
safe.
Yes.
So,
and it can
or
really
even just
and it can really escalate from there.
It can.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the essence. And a good friend of mine, Mike McGuffin, told me, this when you're in a business, there's business decisions and regulatory decisions. And if you even boil it down even further, it's affinity of risk and risk management within that spectrum. So in your opinion, the biggest risk and first thing people need to be careful with is claims, because it can really lead to the slippery slope of
claims,
really increasing your risk.
But it's also making sure that you are doing things as appropriate according to federal regulations.
Of course, yeah.
So, yes, claims are get you noticed, but if you're able to have a nutritive claim that you can back up and that you show that your ingredients included in this supplement are safe, are generally recognized as safe, then you've got a standing of sorts to say, hey, I'm meeting the federal definition of federal regulations.
Yeah.
So again, not just saying, well, I just won't make any claims and it's fine, because again, it's those ingredients as well that FDA may say, wait a minute, I've never seen this before. Yeah. It's not approved. Show us the documentation you've got that it's been shown to be safe for this intended species and at the intended use level. Keep in mind, there's ingredients also that are dietary supplements or even just ingredients that are approved for use in human food and supplements that may not be safe for animals. You know, just regular ingredients, you know, that dogs shouldn't have, you know, that humans eat all the time because you know, as I said, they're not little people. They have unique digestive systems. They have unique metabolic processes different from humans. Everybody comes back to, well, you know, you shouldn't feed chocolate to dogs. You know, garlic, onions, and other allium species, you know, ingredients that we consume, you know, not all day long. I don't eat onions all day, but you shouldn't feed to dogs because they can cause toxicity. So just because we say, well, this supplement is good for humans, it's no problem. That's not necessarily the case. You really have to do your due diligence and show that it's safe.
And building on that risk thing too, it's not just FDA that's going to be policing you for these approved ingredients and making sure you have that. When you get to a certain level, your clients are going to want that to be the same. They're only going to buy from people, especially the larger ones, are only going to buy from people that have approved ingredients that they're selling.
Correct.
So I guess that needs to play into in terms of, I guess the risk is the risk of FDA action or FDA warning letters, and then also the risk of clients not buying from you.
Correct.
Because you don't have approved.
If you're a producer of ingredients, yes. So, but even if you are producing that and producing your own supplements, again, it is having that confidence in your supplements that you're not going to have an adverse effect in pets. That would be one of the worst things that I could think of for a company, is to put something out on the market that 6 months later you start seeing a whole bunch of adverse event reports or something like that, that there's a concern.
Yeah, so even at its visceral level, it's the safety aspect.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't think any food or animal or pet food manufacturer would ever want that.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Well, that was a very long answer to that very short question. Now, moving on is, how do you effectively separate a human supplement from an animal supplement? Is there anything that prevents using a human supplement on an animal? Okay, that's a great follow-up. We were touching on that earlier.
And we were just touching on that. There is nothing that precludes the use, but keep in mind, it comes back to what is the intended use.
Yeah.
Both, and because we're talking about supplements fall under the category of food, you know, food ingredients are approved for their use or generally recognized for use in a specific species under the intended conditions of use, which means how much you're providing to that animal over the course of the day or a month or a year, whatever the case may be. So in that way, just because it's, again, coming back to just because it's safe for humans doesn't mean it's necessarily safe for dogs at the same level of intake even.
Yeah.
So you have to do your evaluation of how much an animal should be receiving, as well as if you're going to add that ingredient into a supplement for an intended use, coming back to an antioxidant that helps maintain oxidative status, you've got to be able to show that occurs in the pet, the species, the dog or cat or horse, because some ingredients humans can digest and assimilate into their body. Dogs or cats or especially horses may not be able to assimilate the same amount or the same rate, so they don't ingest or incorporate that into their body as quickly. So they don't get as much if you give them the same dose, even according to body weight level. So, you know,
it's just different.
There's a lot of information that you really have to go through and think about, saying, okay, on a body weight basis, we should ramp this up to, you know, 5 grams for a horse. But if they can't absorb it, they only absorb 20% of what humans absorb, then it's not an efficacious dose.
Yeah.
So again, that's a lot of evaluation.
So it really is the fact that, well, first of all, there's the scientific and actual digestive reasons why they're different, but also the regulatory reasons why.
Correct.
You need to be able to justify that it's
That
safe
it is safe.
for the animal and
Mhm.
efficacious for the animal, which is, I guess, the regulatory component of that, which really is the science part, making sure that,
the claim that you're stating
yeah,
is supported by documented scientific
absolutely.
statements.
Now, the next question is, are pet food flavors regulated by the USDA because they often use meat, or by the FDA because they often use non-meat flavors? What about flavors used in pet food pharmaceuticals?
Flavors are an interesting thing. Flavors are, they are regulated in FDA, not USDA. Even if they come from meat and they're derived from meat, they are technically regulated under FDA.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, the synthetic, or even if they are derived from meat products, enzyme provided, then those are falling under the FDA under animal feed ingredients.
So they would still be considered animal feed, even if they're
They are
technically
still
flavors.
correct.
That's
Flavors are still feed ingredients.
Okay.
So that is still under the umbrella of feed. Now, the flavors for pharmaceutical products, that's a little outside of my expertise, but you can still, from my understanding, utilize flavors that fall underneath animal regulations in pharmaceutical products, provided that they are made according to pharmaceutical, they meet pharmaceutical standards that are necessary. So I would have to look at that a little bit more, but yeah, there are questions concerning that.
I guess really, if you start from the human side and how flavors have been traditionally regulated here, there is that question of, are they treated differently?
From my understanding, they are not treated that differently than they would for the human pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, and I guess another thing too, especially, I think a common pitfall with flavors is people could be tempted to use or state the claim that this increases consumption, and that's a slippery slope.
Yes.
You know, that's another thing that I wondered if you had thoughts on.
Flavors are definitely used to promote the consumption of the pet food, palatability. And so that again is, keep in mind that a food ingredient is provided to, or is added to a food to provide taste, aroma, or nutritive value. So even if it is providing taste and that increases food intake, for a pet, that's okay. That's not really a promotion type of statement. You know, you can make your pet food tasty for the dog, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is a promotion statement.
Even if you say they eat more?
Well, okay, in today's arena of obesity in pets and humans, I don't know if you'll be stating that very often, but that could be utilized, the flavors could be utilized more in, let's say, and again, we're drifting into a medical type product. When you talk about medicated or foods for medical purposes for pets. So if those pets are under the supervision of a veterinarian and the veterinarian promotes a certain type of food because of a digestive issue, or the pet is going through surgery and needs extra calories, they may provide this type of a product to promote consumption to help them.
All right, well, thank you for that. Now, are there any other, I guess it's still going on, if they're treated differently, even if they are not, or even if they are similar to, I guess, traditional animal feed, are there any plant inspection requirements in terms of CGMP for pet flavors? You know, I guess it's really straddling that line with, is there any involvement from USDA in terms of inspections? Are there any differences in terms of the quality side, especially if it's a flavor from meat?
Well, I'm going to pull the flavor issue back into just ingredients for pet foods and
Okay.
pet supplement companies. And keep in mind, this comes back to you need to promote your products as being animal feed products. So it really does fall under a lot of the CGMP and other inspections, because what you're really promoting is a nutritional product, which is an animal feed, or it's supplementing the feed, but it is still considered animal food ingredient. So you fall underneath a lot of those similar evaluations of the not just the company, but the facilities and things like that.
There's not really distinctions.
Not really for that aspect that I have found. They were still under the umbrella of animal food and the ingredients that go into animal food.
Okay. All right. What are the most significant regulatory problems you see in the industry today with regard to quality and building on that purity? So really looking at GMP type stuff again.
It's looking at GMP type of situations. It's looking at characterization of your ingredients, because FDA will say, well, I don't understand what this ingredient is. That's been a big issue with the initial discussions on CBD. Well, what is it? What is this oil? What's it coming from? What part of the plant? What's that whole process? It is also showing that, which, as I said earlier, showing what you state on the label is what you've got in your product. You don't see it so much for animal feeding supplements, but for human supplements, there's definitely adulteration. But for the animal supplements, it may be a contamination, more so than adulteration. And that's why there's a big promotion and big push for even animal supplement companies to meet good manufacturing practices.
And I think you and I have talked about this as ingredient characterization is really the first step and one of the most important. And I guess that's one of the biggest regulatory problems you see. What does that mean, like for a company, practically speaking, to characterize an ingredient? What are some of the tasks that they need to do to characterize an ingredient?
Some of the tasks, and it matters what the ingredient is. So if it is an enzyme, you'll have different specifications for the enzyme, and really a lot of the characterization comes down to how do you specify that this is what you say it is, and also where it's coming from. The source as well, because you're going to be saying if this is an extract of a plant as opposed to an enzyme, but this is an extract of a plant. How have you confirmed that is the plant, that is the genus species that you're talking about, that is actually what's on your label? And then, what is the manufacturing process for that? Can you follow it so that you characterize that this is an aqueous extract of a certain chamomile plant or something like that? So there's certain characterizing ingredients or components within an extract that you would have to have, not necessarily on your label, but in your specifications that you test for every lot, saying, yes, we've developed this, let's call it a fingerprint for this extract. We've validated that, and we are making sure that we meet that fingerprint every time.
Now, with, I guess, specifications too, another pitfall that people have is they struggle with providing enough product, and then they have a benchtop product. They do analysis for that. They describe that, but then when they ramp it up, it's slightly different. How do people prepare for that, or they define and get the specifications for the benchtop, and then ensure that they're still applicable when they increase production, when they commercialize the product?
Again, should
they wait?
You don't necessarily have to wait as much as you have to make sure your ranges for those specifications are wide enough to encounter or possibly encounter at least the majority of the modifications as you start to ramp up to a commercial production process. Now, many times you can change your specifications if your manufacturing process shows that, well, instead of having your protein content from 15 to 20%, you've actually been able to enhance the protein content to go from 18 to 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So you would change that specification, but you would have to have your internal documentation stating that this does not change the safety of this product overall.
Yeah.
And in that way you can say the specification still fits, and you've got to have the right documentation for that as well.
Okay. Now, guess I have another question, like another general question is, if there's, well, are we allowed to call them pet supplements? And what is, I guess, the happy medium between the regulatory categorization of it, which is there's no category for supplements,
Correct.
and what is, I guess, the most acceptable industry term that you should be able to use that mitigates risk? Is pet supplements okay?
Well, that's
because I don't
good
like
question.
It's risk mitigation. Once
good
again,
question.
what do
Good
you call it?
question. And up until a few years ago, I would have said that nutritional supplement or just the term supplement would be appropriate because there was a compliance policy guide that FDA CVM had released in 1995. Now, a compliance policy guide, from my understanding, these are guides that CVM writes up and provides both as information to people within the federal and state agencies on FDA's thinking of a situation, of an issue, of a product, however they want to look at that, as well as these policy guides are available on the FDA website.
Mm.
And so in looking at these policy guides, there was one that was provided and released in 1995 that talked about supplements for animals. And that did say we look upon these as nutritional ingredients, food ingredients that are provided to supplement the diet.
Mm.
That was withdrawn in February of last year.
Mm.
And nothing has replaced that yet that I have located on FDA websites or other documentation, other statements. So what do you call them?
Yeah, so it's not dietary supplements.
So
We wouldn't call them
definitely do not call them dietary supplements. I have seen quite a few as I've gone through different pet stores looking at the supplement aisle of them just being called supplement.
Okay.
So
because they are not dietary supplements.
They do not utilize the term
Okay.
dietary.
Good.
Because that is a red flag because they don't fall under DSHEA.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. I think I've learned a lot. I hope you guys did too and got your questions answered. It's always our job and it's our pleasure to always answer questions for you, make things a little easier. There's a lot of gray, especially in this area, but our job is to help clarify a few of these things for you. Now, as mentioned earlier, if we didn't get to your question, please let us know and we'll make sure to reach out to you and answer that for you. And if you have a unique situation that requires our personal time, we're more than happy to schedule time to chat and discuss it with you and come up with a solution that works best for you. So once again, thank you so much for your time. And before I close, I want to let everyone know that you can reach out to us at info@burdockgroup.com. And other than that, there will also be another webinar in July, and this will be with Ryan Prente on July 29th, and the topic will be nanotoxicity of food ingredients. With that, thank you very much for your time, Ray. Thank you for attending, and you all have a wonderful and safe rest of the week. Thank you.